At my mom's birthday, my niece said, "Grandpa says you're only invited because you pay for stuff." Then she tossed cake at my dress. Everyone laughed. That night, I stopped the $3,400 monthly payment that covered their rent for years. I, 34 am, stood in my childhood home, watching my mother blow out 62 candles, and I felt nothing but the weight of my wallet in my back pocket. The house smelled like vanilla frosting and that specific blend of perfume my mother had worn since I was 7. My brother stood across the room with his wife and their daughter, all three of them clustered near the presents I'd brought. Expensive ones. The kind that made my credit card company send me fraud alerts. I'd driven 3 hours for this. Taken a Friday off work. Brought a dress shirt that cost more than my weekly grocery budget because my father had once mentioned I looked like I shopped at thrift stores. The shirt was Italian. The insult still stung. My mother finished her wish and opened her eyes. She looked at me first, and for half a second I thought maybe this time would be different. Then her gaze slid past me to my brother, and she smiled wider. That smile never quite reached me the same way. The living room was packed with relatives I saw twice a year. Aunts who still asked when I was getting married. Uncles who wanted to know why I wasn't working with my hands like a real man. Cousins who borrowed money and forgot to pay it back. I'd learned to keep my phone on silent at family gatherings. My niece was 11. She had my brother's eyes and her mother's sharp tongue, and she'd been staring at me since I arrived. Not the curious stare of a kid, but something calculating, like she was working up to something. She walked over while I was standing alone near the kitchen. Everyone else had migrated to the living room where my father was holding court about his golf game. My niece held a plate with a massive slice of cake, the corner piece with extra frosting that I'd specifically asked for. My mother had given it to her instead. She looked up at me with those big, innocent eyes and asked why I even came to these things. I told her it was Grandma's birthday. She tilted her head like I'd said something funny. Then she told me that Grandpa said I was only invited because I paid for stuff. That nobody actually wanted me here. She said it casually, like she was commenting on the weather. Like she was just passing along information she'd overheard. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Before I could respond, she lifted the plate and flicked her wrist. The cake hit my chest and slid down the front of my Italian dress shirt, leaving a trail of blue frosting and crumbs. It landed on my dress shoes with a wet splat. The room went silent for exactly 2 seconds. Then someone laughed. My brother laughed first. That deep, booming laugh he used when he thought something was genuinely hilarious. His wife joined in, her hand over her mouth, but her shoulders shaking. Then my father's laugh carried from the living room, followed by my mother's lighter one. My niece grinned up at me, waiting for my reaction. I looked down at my shirt. $400. Ruined. My shoes were suede. Also ruined. I could feel frosting sliding down my stomach, cold and sticky. Nobody apologized. My brother finally caught his breath and said something about kids being kids. My mother came over and told my niece to be more careful, but she was still smiling. My father called from the other room asking what happened, and when someone told him, he laughed again. I excused myself to the bathroom. I cleaned off what I could with paper towels, but the stain was set. Blue frosting doesn't come out easily. I stared at myself in the mirror, at this expensive shirt I'd bought to impress people who would never be impressed, and something inside me just stopped. I'd been paying their rent for 4 years. My brother had lost his job during the pandemic. He'd asked for help just until he got back on his feet. Just temporary. I'd sent the first payment thinking it would be a month, maybe 2. Then it was 6 months. Then a year. Then he'd found a new job, but it paid less, and he had a daughter to think about, and my parents had medical bills. The requests kept coming. The excuses kept evolving. The amount crept up from $2,000 to $2,500 to $3,000 to $3,400. I'd been sending $3,400 every month for 48 months. I'd done the math once at 3 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. Over $160,000. More than my car cost. More than the down payment on a house. I'd delayed buying a house because of those payments. I'd delayed proposing to my girlfriend because I couldn't afford a ring. I'd eaten ramen and skipped vacations and worked overtime until my boss told me to go home. And my niece had just told me what my father really thought. I walked back out to the party. My mother was cutting more cake. My brother was telling a story about his daughter's soccer game. My father was refilling his scotch. Nobody looked at me. I stayed for another hour because leaving immediately would have caused a scene. I made small talk. I smiled when expected. I hugged my mother goodbye and told her I loved her. I drove home in a ruined shirt, and I didn't cry. I just felt empty. When I got back to my apartment, I opened my laptop. My girlfriend was at her place, so I had the quiet I needed. I pulled up my banking app and found the automatic transfer I'd set up years ago. $3,400, first of every month, into my brother's account. I canceled it. Then I sent an email to my brother. I kept it short. I told him the payments were stopping effective immediately. I didn't explain. I didn't justify. I just stated the fact and hit send. I closed my laptop and sat in the dark for a while. My phone started ringing at 8 the next morning. My brother called first. I let it go to voicemail. He called again. Voicemail. He called 6 times before he gave up and started texting. The messages started confused, then annoyed, then angry. He wanted to know what the hell I was thinking. He wanted to know if this was about the cake. He said I was being ridiculous. My mother called next. She'd talked to my brother. She wanted to know why I was doing this. She reminded me that family helps family. She said I was being selfish. I didn't answer any of them. My father called that evening. His message was short. He said I'd better fix this or I'd regret it. He didn't say what I'd regret specifically, just that I would. I deleted all the messages and blocked their numbers. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since I stopped the payments. My girlfriend found out what happened when she noticed I was quieter than usual. I told her everything. About the cake, about the money, about the 4 years of payments I'd been making while barely scraping by myself. She got angry on my behalf, which felt strange because I still just felt numb. She asked me why I never told her. I didn't have a good answer. Pride, maybe. Or shame. Or the stupid hope that if I just kept helping, eventually they'd appreciate it. The calls kept coming from numbers I didn't recognize. My brother had started using his friends' phones. My mother tried calling from her neighbor's line. I blocked each new number as they appeared. Then my aunt reached out. The reasonable one. The one who'd always been kind to me at family gatherings. She sent a long email about how family was forever and money was temporary. She said my brother was struggling. She said my niece didn't mean anything by the cake incident. She said I should reconsider. I wrote back and asked if she knew how much I'd been sending every month. She didn't respond. My brother's wife sent me a Facebook message. She'd never contacted me directly before. She said they'd built their life around that money. They'd assumed it would keep coming. They had expenses. They had a daughter. How could I just cut them off without warning? I wanted to point out that 4 years of warning seemed adequate, but I didn't reply. The real consequences started hitting in week 3. My brother posted on Facebook about how hard it was when family abandoned you. He didn't name me directly, but everyone knew. The comments section filled up with relatives offering sympathy, calling me heartless, saying I'd changed. My mother shared the post. My girlfriend told me to stay off social media for a while. She was right, but I couldn't stop checking. I watched my family craft a narrative where I was the villain, where I'd cruelly cut off support for no reason, where I'd turned my back on a struggling family over a childish prank. Nobody mentioned the $160,000. My cousin sent me a private message asking if I could loan her $500. She said she knew I had money since I'd been helping my brother. She promised to pay me back. I deleted the message without responding. I started having dreams about that birthday party, about standing there covered in cake while everyone laughed. In the dreams, I'd say something devastating and walk out with my head high. In reality, I'd just stood there and taken it. My girlfriend asked me if I regretted stopping the payments. I told her no, and I meant it. For the first time in 4 years, my bank account was mine. I'd already started looking at houses, real houses that I could actually afford now. But I did regret going to that party. Update 2. 1 month since I stopped the payments, and things have escalated. My brother and his family had to move. They couldn't afford their rent without my monthly payment, and apparently they hadn't been saving anything. They moved in with my parents. My mother called me from a number I hadn't blocked yet. She was crying. She said I destroyed my brother's life. She said his daughter had to change schools. She said I'd torn the family apart over a stupid piece of cake. I asked her if Dad still thought I was only invited because I paid for stuff. She hung up. My father sent me a letter, an actual physical letter to my apartment. I don't know how he got my address since I'd moved 2 years ago and never told them. The letter was 3 pages of small, angry handwriting. He called me ungrateful. He said he'd raised me better than this. He said real men took care of their families. I burned it in my sink. My girlfriend and I looked at houses every weekend. We found one we both loved. 3 bedrooms, big yard, good neighborhood. The kind of place I dreamed about owning. We put in an offer. It was accepted. I had the down payment saved within 6 weeks of stopping those payments. My brother found my girlfriend's Instagram. He sent her a long message about what kind of person I really was. He told her I was cold and calculating. He said I'd always been jealous of him. He said she should leave me before she got hurt. She screenshotted it and sent it to me with a laughing emoji. Then she blocked him. We set a closing date for the house. 2 months away. Everything was moving forward in a way it never could have while I was draining my account every month. My aunt, the reasonable one, tried one more time. She sent an email saying my brother had learned his lesson. He was sorry. He just needed one more chance. Maybe I could send half the amount, just to help him get stable? I didn't respond. A few days later, my brother created a GoFundMe. The title was about a family struggling after being abandoned. He put up pictures of my niece. He wrote a long story about how his brother had promised to help and then suddenly cut him off without explanation. He said they were facing homelessness. They weren't facing homelessness. They were living with my parents. The GoFundMe raised about $600 before someone who actually knew the situation commented with the truth. The page got taken down. My mother sent me a Christmas card in October. Inside, she'd written that she hoped I was happy with myself, that she hoped the money was worth losing my family, that she'd always love me, but she didn't like me very much right now. I threw the card away, but the word stuck. My girlfriend caught me staring at nothing one evening. She sat down next to me and asked what I was thinking about. I told her I was thinking about whether I'd made a mistake. She asked if I meant stopping the payments. I said no. I meant ever starting them in the first place. Update 3. 3 months since the last payment, and I'm sitting in my new house. We closed 2 weeks ago. My girlfriend and I spent last weekend painting the bedroom. Her parents came over to help us move furniture. They brought pizza and stayed late telling embarrassing stories about her childhood. Not one person from my blood family knows I bought a house. My mother sent me a Thanksgiving invitation, a formal card with embossed lettering, like I was a distant relative instead of her son. The card said they hoped I could join them, but understood if I was too busy. I didn't respond. My girlfriend asked if I wanted to go. She said she'd come with me for support if I wanted. I told her I'd rather have Thanksgiving with her family. We did. It was nice. Her mother made too much food and her father told bad jokes, and nobody mentioned money once. My brother's wife sent me an email in early December. It was different from the others. She wasn't asking for money. She was just angry. She said I'd ruined their lives. She said my niece cried when they had to leave their house. She said I'd damaged my relationship with my niece permanently over my own pride. I wanted to write back. I wanted to tell her that my niece had been weaponized by my father, that she'd been taught to disrespect me, that the damage had been done long before I stopped the payments. But I didn't, because it wouldn't change anything. I got a call from my father's number on Christmas Eve. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. It wasn't my father. It was my niece. She asked if I was coming to Christmas. I asked her who told her to call me. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said nobody told her to. She just wanted to know if I was coming. I asked her if she remembered what she said to me at Grandma's birthday party. Another silence. Then she said Grandpa had told her to say it. She said she didn't really mean it. She said everyone was mad at her now because I stopped helping them. I felt something crack in my chest. She was 11. She'd been used as a weapon by adults who should have known better. I told her I wasn't coming to Christmas. I told her it wasn't her fault, but I couldn't be around the family right now. She started crying and asking what she could do to fix it. I told her there was nothing to fix. I told her to have a good Christmas and ended the call. My girlfriend found me sitting on our back porch in the cold. She didn't say anything, just sat next to me and held my hand. We had our own Christmas the next day, just the two of us in our new house. We cooked breakfast together and exchanged small gifts and watched movies. It was quiet and simple and nothing like the chaotic Christmases I'd grown up with. It was better. My phone stayed silent all day. No calls from blocked numbers. No emails. No cards. They'd finally given up, or they'd finally gotten the message. I checked my bank account that evening out of habit. The money that used to disappear on the first of every month was still there. I stared at the balance and tried to feel guilty. I didn't. My girlfriend asked me if I missed them. I told her the truth. I missed the family I thought I had. The one where I mattered as more than a bank account. The one where my mother looked at me the same way she looked at my brother. The one where my father was proud of me. But that family had never existed. I'd just been pretending it did while I paid for the privilege of being tolerated. She asked if I thought I'd ever reconcile with them. I said maybe. Someday. If they ever apologized. If they ever acknowledged what they'd done. If they ever treated me like I was worth more than my wallet. But I wasn't holding my breath. We're talking about getting engaged. My girlfriend and I. We haven't set a date or bought a ring yet. But we've started having the conversation. The conversation I couldn't have when I was sending $3,400 a month to people who laughed when cake was thrown at me. I'm building something new. Something that's mine. Something that isn't dependent on being useful or generous or convenient. Sometimes I still think about that birthday party. About standing there covered in frosting while my family laughed. About my niece's calculated cruelty and my father's casual contempt and my mother's passive enabling. But mostly I think about this house. About the mortgage payment that's less than what I was sending my brother. About the yard where maybe someday my own kids will play. About the life I'm building with someone who chose me not because I could pay for things, but because she actually wanted me around. I don't know if my family will ever understand why I stopped the payments. I don't know if they'll ever apologize or admit they took advantage. I don't know if my niece will grow up and realize what really happened. What I do know is that I'm done setting myself on fire to keep them warm. The payments stopped. My life started. And I'm never going back. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.